If you're in your 40s or 50s or 60s, do this bit of maths with me for a second. Take the age you think you'll be when you stop working and subtract your current age. That's the number of working years you've got left. Not exactly rocket science, but for many people watching this, it might be a smaller number than what it actually feels like. And I think that's why so many of you commented on a video I put out a few weeks ago where I talked about a man who'd recently retired after a successful 30-year career, but found himself asking why he'd wasted so much time. So many of you leave comments to my videos explaining how you simply cannot wait until retirement. So in today's video, what I wanted to do is ask the question that guy took 30 years to ask himself. And it's not what should you do when you retire, but what should you do in the years leading up to retirement? My name's Lucy, if you haven't met me before. I've spent 30 years in leadership roles, including some time as a charity chief exec. And I stepped away from those leadership roles and titles in my 50s. And today I share workplace experiences with you to try to help you be happy in work and happy in life. So this isn't hypothetical for me. I've done the maths on my own journey to retirement more than once, and I can exclusively reveal that time doesn't half march on. You might think that the best advice is to sit tight and wait. And to be honest, in a way that is the obvious plan. Waiting for the mortgage to be paid off, waiting for the kids to be settled, waiting for some time and some space where you can think properly about what you want to do with the time that you've got left. It's hard to do when you're busy juggling all the balls that many of us juggle in our working lives. The problem with that is that not making a choice and waiting is a choice in itself, and it has consequences. Each year that you wait is another year gone from the number that we worked out at the beginning of the video. So this isn't a video about someday, it's a video about what to do with this finite and particular stretch of years, starting with today. It's really important to start with your actual number, honestly, not a vague sense of rolling years ahead of you, but an actual number. A colleague of mine had a date in his head that he was working towards for his retirement. It was 60 years old. And he had a countdown app on his phone, which would pop up every morning with one day less. It was the number of days he was counting down. The heartbreaking end to this story is that he didn't live long beyond that retirement age. And I'm sure all of you watching this will know people like that who work and work and work, and then they retire, and not long later, they're no longer with us. This is why it's so important to be clear and not waste the time. Vague time limits let us put things off indefinitely, whereas it's much, much harder to ignore an actual specific deadline or date. Here's a task for you to do this week. Write your number down somewhere where you can see it. Make it concrete for yourself. Now sit down and take a long, hard look at where your time, your working time, is currently being spent. And be honest with yourself. This is only for you. It's not for your boss, so you don't have to pretend. And this matters because what people often say matters to them is frequently different from what they're actually spending their time doing. All kinds of things fill your working day. And if you do some cold analysis of what those things are, you may well find that many of them are not things that you want to be doing. And it's difficult to make shifts if you haven't actually done the analysis of what you're spending your time doing. It's difficult to close gaps that you haven't assessed and measured. Your task is think back over the last 3 or 4 weeks and look at what you spent your time, what hours were you putting into which tasks in your working days. Write down the 2 or 3 things that took up the biggest number of hours. Then ask yourself, honestly, would you spend your time doing those things if you were given free rein to choose whatever you wanted to do? Now have a think about what time well spent means to you. Whatever industry you're in, time well spent may well be not what your industry rewards. The task is to think hard about what would you think is time that is rewarding, fulfilling, joyful, that where you're learning, where you're stretched? What do you think that the time well spent is filled with? And it's so important to let go of everybody else's expectations when you do this thinking. This is about you. It's about your standards, what is actually important to you. The reason for being really careful about this thinking is because it's very easy to get caught up in what other people's expectations are, what our parents thought we should be doing, what our grandparents thought we should be doing, what our spouse might think, what other people around us might think, and then colleagues. And if you allow yourself to be swayed by other people's expectations, it's very hard to get into the essence of your own measures of what a good working life contains. Often those success measures are built around things like salary, title, standing on stages, getting awards, employee of the month, all those sorts of things, those other external factors. But for this task, it's really important to go into your own heart and really think hard about what success means to you. Maybe have a go at finishing this sentence. I'll know that these years were well spent if ... and fill in the dots. How will you know that this is time well spent? These are the kind of questions I often ask coaching clients, by the way. Oh yes, just a quick ad break. I'm planning to launch an online community later in the year to provide support from me and mutual support from members of the community. I'll be working on it through the summer. And the best place to be sure you're the first to hear about it is to subscribe to my weekly newsletter. So I'll put a link in the description below. So do sign up for that. And now back to the action. Have a look at the analysis you've just done about the way you spend your time, your working time, and pick one thing to change this month, just one. The man in my story who retired wishing he hadn't wasted so much time didn't lack self-awareness at the end. He lacked the self-awareness earlier on at a time when he could have done more about it. So he'd spent 30 years working in financial services and then suddenly realised he'd wasted time. And so what I'm hoping to do with this video is give you some tools so you don't fall into that trap, so you don't waste that time, so you can make changes sooner. You still have that moment right now, use it. So this week's task is to take one specific small change that you can make in the next 2 weeks, 30 days, that will move you closer to that goal of time well spent. What change could you make? What thing could you do differently that would give you that time being spent in the way that you choose, that fulfills you? This isn't about drafting a 5-year plan. It's about making one small step, one intentional small step. My own version of this story is now. I'm living in that shift, and I started it about 18 months ago, and I gave myself a 10-year time horizon to spend time doing things that give me joy, hence the focus on YouTube, making videos, being creative, bringing that purpose into my life, and also helping people on a one-to-one basis. So the move to coaching has all been about that deliberate, intentional step and thinking about spending my time doing the things I enjoy, that fulfill me. I'm living this story along with you if this is what you're looking for. And I guess I don't have all the answers because I don't know how the story's going to turn out, but I've made some very deliberate changes in the way I work over the last period in order to make sure that I'm wasting as little time as possible and practicing what I preach. You don't get the past years back. They don't, they've gone, they're behind you, but you do have the years ahead of you. And as we age, clearly there are likely to be fewer years ahead of us. And it starts to get even more important that we spend that diminishing time as wisely and as fruitfully and as joyfully as we possibly can. I believe this in my bones. It's kind of why I make this content. I don't want people to be unhappy at work. I simply don't. What you do with the years ahead of you is entirely up to you. If today's video made you stop a minute, do some sums, think differently about how you spend your time, that's brilliant. And I wish you all the best with whatever comes next. Tell me in the comments what's your number, and what would you need to be true to make that number of years as happy and fulfilled as possible? What would you want to be true by the time you reach the end of that number, that retirement age? What would you be grateful to your current self for? Ask yourself that. Maybe share in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you don't subscribe already, then please click that button. I make videos like this at least every week for people like you navigating career crossroads, maybe feeling a bit stuck and needing a bit of a boost to help move forward. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.